Hello, Daisy Cakes. This is Daisy X Machina, the drag queen detective who investigates all things speculative in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And this is a Get Ready With Me where I get into drag to film a video later today. And we have Lynette and Frank. Thank you both for showing up. And as usual, how is your reading going? I picked up the second book in the Adrian Tchaikovsky fantasy trilogy, Tyrant Philosophers. And interesting thing about this, because I know I talked about it last week, how it was so unusual that there wasn't a main character because there were just so many characters, and there maybe the city was the main character. City of Last Chances was the name of the first book. The second book is called House of Open Wounds, and there is one character that is carried over from the first book. And I don't believe the second book really relies on the first book. So it's like they are two standalone novels um, set in the same fantasy setting. So I think that's really interesting. And the second book is one of the characters from the first book. And I won't really call him a main character, but he kind of is in the second book. But there's still a big cast of people, but it's in a totally other part of the world. This is a sort of a 1984 totalitarian empire that's sort of taking over this world, but it's very corrupt. And one of the things they do is to outlaw like religion and spirituality, that type of thing. But they take these fantasy, in this fantasy setting, there are these different religions, and they take a few of them as an experiment to put them together as a mobile healing unit. It's basically MASH, and send them to the front lines to heal their soldiers. Um, and it's good so far. It's interesting, and I like that they're standalone stories. I thought this was going to be like a big story arc. So I'm probably not going to jump into the third book because I don't think I need to. If they're all standalones, I can read them at any time. And there are other things I need to read, like a anthology of horror books that I picked for Shove It or Shove It. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. Just finished Dark Water, and we'll start Testament by David Morrell, which hopefully will be better. Oh, I'm sorry. This week I finished the Inugami Curse, which was the Japanese mystery I was halfway through last week. Sounds complicated. The one I'm reading, it's really not. Well, there are a lot of characters to keep track of. But anyway, Lynette, how was the Inugami Curse? Was it a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star? Okay, so let's get started on some makeup. I was generally thinking purple and orange, or just maybe should I just do all purple? Maybe I'll do purple with an orange lid, or orange with a purple lid. I didn't really think this through. Mm. Let's do orange with a purple lid. Also read Pax Romana, which was about the first pandemic known in Europe, 2nd century Rome, possibly measles or smallpox. They don't know for sure. Inugami Curse was 4 out of 5. We'll read more by the author. Yeah, I'm kind of curious about Japanese mystery. Okay, we're going to do a Trying to figure out what is dark orange, which I think is just actually dark brown. So just going to do that. That bird flu isn't like that. Well, here in the States, we're having a measles outbreak. So I don't think I ever had the measles. Well, I know I never had the measles. The only thing I've ever had was the mumps. Now I'm partway through Savis Corax Deals with the Dead of Fantasy by KJ Parker about a battlefield salvager and his crew. I've never read anything by KJ Parker, but the name is really familiar. The Japanese are really coming on, or maybe there weren't a lot of translations till recently. Yeah, I don't know that. There's like what's this Murakami, but or if K Jr. caused the measles. Okay, I think I need to. Okay. I thought KJ Parker was a new author for me, but when I looked him up, it is a pseudonym for Tom Holt, who I have read before. Oh, maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but I know Tom Holt. I don't know him, but it's a much more familiar name. Okay. Does anyone have Apple TV? I keep hearing there's a lot of good shows on it, and I've just have not bothered, but Okay, the orange. The orange is oranging. Books I have read by Tom Holt are Expecting Someone Taller Who's Afraid of Beowulf and Odds and Gods, in which Odin is in a nursing home. Oh, I like that. I have not read that. I don't think I've read anything by Tom Holt. I just recognize the name of the author. I read Grendel. Yeah, I've read Grendel by John Gardner. One of the best novels I ever read. Yeah. He is a comedic author, at least as Tom Holt. Savis Corax has humor, but it is a little more serious and a bit of an anti-hero. Who wrote Still Life with Woodpecker? Was that Tom Holt? Or I must be, no, that was Tom Rollins. That was I remember reading that when I was, I think my father, it's one of those books like my father got. I would never have gotten it for myself, but it was like sitting on the bookshelf and I read it and I thought it was very adult and funny and there we go. Tom Robbins. That's it. Not Rollins, Robbins. Lori is here. Hey, Lori. Thank you for coming. Oh, you don't have Apple. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking I would get Apple if there's nothing else on any of the channels that I own and that I could like turn it off. Or if it's really cheap. I haven't actually looked into it. Yeah, no politics. Lori's here. Oh, not for long. Okay. But we weren't talking about politics anyway. Uh, Okie dokie. Just trying to blend the brown a little bit. Why was I thinking about Apple TV? Oh, I know, because there's that show, I think it's called Succession. It's everyone's like talking about it. I think they've done a few science fiction shows. I think they did the Foundation series I was curious about, but I didn't hear anyone that actually really liked it. But anyway, so many shows. Okay, so going to move on to eyeliner to map things out. Laura, you're so young. Saying goodbye to Amazon, book, and cutting away on Audible. For my audiobooks, I'll be using Kobo and Zigzag. I will occasionally buy at Audible because Dennis E. Taylor's audiobooks are only available through them. Love to say goodbye to Amazon completely, but when you don't have a car, it's kind of hard. Succession, the Hodge, yeah. Okay. When's the new Doctor Who supposed to come out? Seems like it should be out already. Okay. I'm not gonna say about Rupert Murdoch, not Doctor. You know we have to bring up Doctor Who. Instead of Amazon, I'm shopping at Kmart Australia and Big W and other smaller Australian stores. I have free postage with Kmart. Yeah, I haven't seen a K. Yeah, I think they closed down. Yeah. Kmart Australia separated from Kmart USA years ago. Okay, so okay, I'm gonna cut the crease. Yeah, I know Walmart is very big here, at least in Vegas. We have like several of Walmart stores. I don't go there very often because I always get lost. I never know what to buy. There's like a pet section. I think that's the last time I went there is to look for pet food. But there's auto section, there's a whole supermarket, clothing section. Okay. Hey, gagging for lit. Thank you for joining us. It's been forever since I've seen you. Going back to using Australian eBay. Looking forward to US time. Oh, that's right. Spring forward. I don't really need to buy books anymore. I own a few hundred I have not read yet. Woo, Lynette. Wow. Yes. Gagging for lit is related to Gaga. If the USA is changing time tonight, that will mean 6 a.m. start for me here next week. All right. When Australia stops using daylight savings time on April 1st, I will be here 5 a.m. Oh my gosh, Lynette. Okay, so here it is. Okay. Just ombreing out some purples. Okay. Do I want a little purple highlight in the center? I feel guilty if I don't buy books because I worry about struggling authors. When Australia stops daylight, oh, okay. I looked at a video in which a booktuber was suggesting people not to have books they haven't read on their shelves, and I had to disagree with him. Going to Publix tomorrow to get a microwave buttermilk pancakes. I've never heard of that. Can you make pancakes in the microwave? Hey, James, the medium answer. Are there any authors like Sherwood Smith and Kate Elliott that you can recommend? Also, do you know of any great urban fantasy authors like the Dresden Files? Oh, great questions. I have a wide choice when I need to select a new book. Okay, so for James, let's. Oh, and Kate Elliott. Those are so far from urban fantasy. uh, I guess there's Mercedes Lackey. That's what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of Kate Elliott. Of course, my favorite fantasy of all time is Robin Hobb, which if you've mentioned those authors, I'd be surprised if you haven't read Robin Hobb yet. Urban fantasy isn't my favorite, which is basically modern day fantasy set, usually in a city setting. Um, of course, Dresden Files is probably would be my favorite of urban fantasy now that we're talking about it. But God, I can't think of any other urban fantasy. I'm looking at my bookshelf. I know Mercedes Lackey has done some. Just what is attraction of fantasy for you? Well, yes. Oh, that's a good one. Well, it's not either urban fantasy or Kate Elliott, Sherwood Smith type fantasy, but Babel is historical fantasy. Fantastic book by R.F. Kuang, set in the 1800s during the Opium Wars of Britain, between Britain and China. About the main character is half Chinese, half British, and is taken to be trained at Oxford, which in this alternate reality has an interesting magic system based on languages. Anyway, highly recommend Babel. I think it should be required reading for anyone that's interested in the Opium Wars. But why are we interested in fantasy? I think it has to do with escapism, and, most fantasy readers I know that are really into fantasy got hooked on it young rather than later in life, so maybe that has something to do with it. Um, but I don't know, I've always just really been into speculative fiction. That's always been my thing. Babel was a good book. Read Yellowface, very disappointing. I like fantasy based on history. You know what one of my favorite, historical fantasies are, um, Naomi Novik, who is a fantastic writer. Her Temeraire, it's her debut novel, was, Her Majesty's Service, something like that. But it's about the Napoleonic Wars, and the what if dragons existed during the, Napoleonic era. I'm also a huge fan of Fonda Lee's, Greenbone Saga. It starts with, I want to call it like the Jade War Saga because none of the novels have the term Greenbone in it. It's always Jade War, Jade City, Jade something or other. And it's not really historical, except as I think a metaphor of the Cold War, sort of the 70s. I think the technology level is like around the 70s or maybe 60s. I mean, if anything deserves to be made into a new series, streaming series, that's my vote. The Greenbone Saga. I saw R.F. Kuang give a talk about Yellowface and wondered if Babel was worthwhile. I thought Yellowface was had some fun moments, but wasn't very impressive. I thought it was a bold though. Yeah, I haven't read Yellowface. I wasn't really interested in it after, which is surprising, but or maybe it's not. But Babel, I think it's a masterpiece. Fantasy history is different than alt history. Yes. Please no dragons. I enjoying trying to determine who from history George R. R. Martin's characters are based on. Have you read the Northern Lights series? Oh, is that the one, the Golden Compass, the middle grade? I have read it. I loved it. Rhaenyra is certainly based on Matilda, and she stole the main plot device in Yellowface from another author. Uh, try Golden Compass down here, but when I read it, it had all those weird animals in it, and I trashed it. Hey, if you're not into fantasy, you're not into fantasy. Okay. Uh, Golden Compass, Subtle Knife, etc. I read the first one 10 years ago, but may give it a proper go sometime. Yeah, it's really an indictment on dogmatic religions, especially the Catholic Church. Holy fantasy I'm into on my own. My problem with fantasy is I find it hard to accept magic. Um, well, I was going to say Babel sort of has sort of an interesting magic system, but it's not like the main thrust of the plot, really, because you can use it as a metaphor for um, cultural appropriation and other things. I'm really recommending Babel. The animals are daemons, like spirit animals. Yeah, it's actually your soul, right? The daemons are your soul, only it's expressed externally. Anyway, oh, I think my mirror lost the charge. I forgot to recharge it. It's fine. Okay. I want to go in with a little bit of black. Oh, the video I'm going to film today is uh, look at the subgenre of climate fiction, or cli-fi, as it's called. Also loved Wicked by GRWM. I have all the Wicked books back here. Son of a Witch, the Lion one. Great, great stories. Um, yeah, well, it's definitely an adult book. Wicked is not meant for children. Huge film right now. The film is so different from the film and Broadway show are so different from the books. Are fine for kids. The book to me is pretty much completely different. Yeah. Watched Wizard of Oz as a kid. Judy Garland was early movie crush. Loved Judy. I enjoyed your Dying Earth, even if it isn't a favorite subgenre. Not into climate change stuff that much. Well, maybe you're not into solar punk, but solar punk definitely is sort of a cousin to sci-fi. Okay, so we're going to do the under eyes. Gave up on Son of a Witch. Elphaba was the main character I cared about. The Next Generation were boring for me. Yeah, it's been a while since I've read Son of a Witch, but um, I can see your point. I think I saw on Twitter or something of how appalled some parents were of Wicked when their like teenage daughters really loved the theatrical version and then got the book and it was a lot more adult than they were expecting. Oops. Okay. Yeah, I haven't read anything else by Gregory Maguire besides the Wicked shows or books. But I know he's also a children's author. He's done some middle grade books and he did uh, a a Cinderella story from the Wicked or the ugly stepsister's point of view. I read the Wicked book when I was 16. It got me into writing. It's so fun and clever. I didn't like the drowned world. I thought it was somewhat racist. I don't remember that. Oh, here we are. Drowned World by J.G. Ballard was interesting, but very much of its time. I haven't liked any other Gregory Maguire novel. Yeah, that's it. Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister. I have not read that. I've only read the Wicked books. I've been more interested in his children's book because I write children's books or trying to get published as a children's author. Aussie book called The Drowning Towers. I read Mirror Mirror about Snow White by Maguire, but I remember a lot of it being about the dwarves being rocks and then eventually turning real. Boring. Okay, so I'm done with the eyes. Let's move on to the lips. Now I kind of wish I had the mirror light. Oh well. Okay. Thank you, gagging. Hope you find success with children's book writing. I have an idea for a children's book, so I hope to get into writing that soon. Heard the new Snow White movie is a disaster. Oh, hey, James. I love Robin Hood. I'm on her dragon books now. Julianne Moore's children's book got banned. Isn't that weird? Have you guys heard that? Julianne Moore wrote a picture book about I forget what it's called, but it's about being having freckles, being growing up with freckles, and no one else had freckles. And the picture book was about learning to accept people's differences, but it got banned because we're getting into politics now because of it was apparently to promoting diversity, which is against uh, the new regime's policy, which just is so bizarre. I mean, of all the reasons, mm, I wanted a red lipstick. What happened to my red lipstick? Oh my gosh. I have to open up a new one. I have the Farseer trilogy on my shelves by Hobb. Need to read it sometime. Not sure when. It is ridiculous to ban a book about freckles. Sometimes banning something makes people want it more. I read it back in the early 90s. Maybe I need to go back and reread it. Christian Wright has gone nuts with hatred on what they call DEI. Well, the weirdest thing, talking about DEI, is in the Defense Department. Because the word on high is to ban anything having to do with inclusion, is they're just banning everything um, like um, references and pictures to like people of color in uniform. But the funniest thing, it's not actually that funny, was banning Enola Gay, the plane with the words Enola Gay on it, because it has the word gay on it. Um, they wanted to take down the pictures, which is absurd because that was, someone's last name. I think it might have even been someone's like the pilot's mother's name, Enola Gay. Uh, anyway, talking about Robin Hobb, the Farseer trilogy When I read that when it came out, I liked it. I thought it was the magic system with the skill and the wit. But in my opinion, it's not like groundbreaking or anything. It's just, an average good fantasy novel. But what she did was she had this Elderlings universe and using it to have other stories because I believe her second one was the Live Ship trilogy, and that blew me away. That was like so imaginative. So, and you could read these books out of order. But what I'm saying is, don't judge the Live Ship. I mean, don't judge the Robin Hobb universe just by, and I just found the red I was looking for, just by um, the Farseer trilogy. Because in my opinion, it just gets better. Okay. Danny Enola Gay and also soldier with the surname Gay. Isn't that absurd? It was definitely the pilot's mother's name. And they banned mention of the Tuskegee Airmen, which is also the Navajo Code Talkers. Okay, once I've read the Farseer books, I'll look out for the Realm of the Elderlings. Yeah, the next one I think is maybe the best is the Live Ship. But the Tawny Man, which carries the story of Fitz, the main character in Farseer, um, uh, the Tawny Man, and then her very, very last series, which I've forgotten the trilogy's name, actually made me cry. It was so so well done. But it was also the conclusion of these characters I was following since the 90s. Okay, put on some eyelashes. I think we're done. The live ship books made me cry. I had to close the last book for a second. Oh, wow. Tawny Man had me hiccuping with tears. Well, James, have you read the very last trilogy? That one broke me. You will be bawling for that one. Okay. Been all over the internet. So far, 26,000 photos have been removed from government websites because of anti-DEI policies. Working on the Rain Wilds book. Yeah, the Rain Wilds had the character everyone loves to hate, the husband of the main character. Okay, anyway. Um, yeah. Did you hear about they finally figured out what happened to Gene Hackman and his wife? I mean, thankfully, there was nothing nefarious, but, apparently the wife died first of some disease or whatever that you get from a rat infestation, and what I didn't know, he was 95, but apparently Gene Hackman was in an advanced stage of Alzheimer's and just couldn't take care of himself or maybe didn't even realize his wife died, and then, I really feel sorry for the dog because apparently they had a dog in a crate that just, starved to death, but two other dogs they had were fine or lived. Yeah. 95 though. I guess he goes all the way back to, the Poseidon Adventure, which was like was that early '70s? Poseidon Adventure? And I remember seeing him, I forget the name of the movie, but he was like the detective or spy with that would, like, listen in on conversations and would bug people, but then at the very end, he got paranoid that he was being bugged. It's really a good movie. Okay. The Japanese could break the code because there was no code. They were speaking Navajo, meaning they couldn't break the code. Not surprised Cage has been in everything. The dog died, was in a crate. Oh, because they just had an operation. I didn't hear that. Sounds like something out of a psychological horror movie, Desperately Sad. Yeah. People are being nasty about Hackman's children. She wasn't well, she was in her 60s. I mean, she wasn't a spring chicken. Uh, what's a good series that you can recommend from Bain Publishing? I don't know. It's Bain. Uh, gosh, I don't think I know can tell series by the publishers. I remember in the '70s or '80s, DAW books had these, um, really bright yellow, spines or something, and I remember not picking up those books because I read one book I really didn't like, so I just judged all the books by just the publisher. But yeah, I would have to, like, look to see what Bain has published before I could recommend anything. Okay, this is the hair I grabbed. It always comes together at the end. I'm sure this looked a little sketchy for a while, but Ted Williams is awesome, I agree. I'm in my 60s. I'm quite capable of looking after myself and others. My sister is 70 this year, and she looks after a severely autistic son. I am sent to look after a 91-year-old. Okay. Yeah, but the wife just had that weird, unfortunate, what was it? Affected her lungs or something? Okay. So this is the final look. I will be filming a video today on Cli-Fi. Oh, and I think I'm going to release a video today just on the Galactic Patrol, which is the Hugo Award or Hugo nominated book I picked for my Hugo series. And then the week following that, I'll do the 1941 Hugos and pick a book from there. So we'll see how that goes. I kind of like doing these old Hugos and finding old books, although they are not they are dated. Okay, guys. So I should be here next week. I hope to see you then. And as usual, may all the books you read be blessed.